Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Now What, the series where we feature inspiring stories of incredible people who have navigated unplanned challenges and emerged with purpose and good energy. My name is Tiffany Jeminet. I come to you from Lafayette, Louisiana. I've been in the public health field for the last 20 years, but I'm currently an organizational development consultant and also an advisor around personal alignment and getting into spiritual wellness and also travel. I am joined here today with my special guest, Bonita McGee. Me and Bonita have worked together for about 8 years in a very specific capacity of developing trainings and technical assistance for the Centers for Disease Control. Bonita is not only a veteran of public health, but she's also a teacher, and I would say an expert in the transformative book, A Beautiful Constraint by Adam Morgan and Mark Borden. Today, we're going to look at how Bonita is using the very principles that she teaches to navigate her own now what moment, expanding her career and managing her business in a shifting public health landscape, and what that means for all of us in this field and in this world today. For those of you who have not yet read A Beautiful Constraint, which we highly recommend, it is, again, by Adam Morgan and Mark Borden, if you're looking for that. It completely reframes how we can look at a problem. The core premise of this book is that limitations or constraints aren't our barriers to success. If anything, we can use them right away to create our most innovative work that we've ever done. It's a great leadership book, and we've used it over the last, I would say, 5 years in our trainings for health departments across the nation. A quote from this book that is super relevant to this Now What vlog is this: a constraint should be regarded as a stimulus for positive change. We can choose to use it as an impetus to explore something new and arrive at a breakthrough. And I'm here to talk about Bonita's recent breakthroughs, and also for Bonita to share a few, I would say, high level lessons from the book in case you haven't been to one of Bonita's trainings, or if you haven't read the book yet, she'll give you a little sneak peek into some of those lessons. So, hi, Bonita. Could you
Hello, Tiffany.
introduce yourself briefly to our guests, our audience?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to just share and, vibe off of, the idea and benefits around this book. And so for me, my name is Bonita McGee, and I am the founder and managing member of Catalyst Consulting and Facilitation, LLC. So that's my little shingle that I use as my platform to do amazing work in communities at the end of the day. I work with public health agencies, nonprofit organizations. I do instructor work with seminaries, and I also just love the art and the transformation of facilitation and facilitating and helping people through their journeys. So that's a little bit about me. I have been doing, so let's get some context as we're talking about public health and tobacco control and all of the things. I have about, it's hard to count. It hurts to count because then you just date yourself. But over 20 years of experience in public health, tobacco control in particular. I also have at least over 25 years in working in sexual assault, domestic violence awareness work. I have been a community advocate, cut my teeth in the trenches, and watching other frontline advocates rough and tumble. So I cut my teeth in that area, and I'm very proud of those grassroots. It
Mhm.
has served me over the years in the different spheres of place and influence throughout my life for that. So that's just a little bit of background about me and kind of what makes up this journey and this where I am today and doing this work.
Awesome. So, Bonita, I'll ask you just, a few questions for our to guide our discussion. And I have based the questions on kind of the framework of the book,
Mhm.
just to like align all of this information together and hopefully again leave the audience with some information about what's in the book. So I'll start off with the idea that constraints are a catalyst, and I believe that's the name of your business. So you are in the thick of building your business, which can feel incredibly restricting right now with what's happening in public health. In the language of the book, which have it talks about your current constraint and how you can use it. How have you identified what your current constraint is? And then is the public health field, the geography, or perhaps where you live or what's happening, a limitation that you've placed on yourself?
So thank you for that question. And before I answer it, though, I wanted to just surface a small nugget in the book that I think is important when you begin to think about constraints and how they what role they play in your life. And that's the relationship. And having an awareness, self-awareness about the relationship you have to constraints. So, in all transparency, and I do this in all of my trainings, I say like my initiating relationship to a constraint is that of a victim. I'm just like, ugh, not having it. I'm not feeling it. I'm annoyed, and all the things that come with that victim idea, that victim mentality. And so, what I've learned over the years, this is prior to even working with the book, is that self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools you can have in your toolbox. And once I understood that I can have this emotion and not judge it, I was able to transform from it.
Mm,
Right. And so when I first read the book and I was going through the chapter on your relationship to constraints, it was a immediate like connected connection there because the book talks about understanding your relationship and how you can go from a victim to be a transformative in
mm.
addressing how you can leverage constraints. And it resonated with me with that. So I wanted to just really just make sure that one of the benefits in engaging with it is just that self-awareness and understanding your starting relationship. Your starting relationship with a constraint doesn't have to be your ending. So that was the small nugget. And my current, I think, constraint I've put on myself is that of time. We have different constraints of foundation, of resources, of methods. But for me, I put time as a constraint for me. And one of the reasons why I've kind of put this limitation or this constraint on me is that I am one of those what I call, and I can't remember where I got the term, so I apologize. I can't give proper attribution, but I'm a procrastinator, right? It's one of my favorite procrastination methods. I love to analyze. I love to plan it. It's got to be perfect in my head. I love to research and making lists is my love language, right? And so what I've done to kind of propel myself into progress, propel myself into decision making, is to give myself a constraint of time. Like, Benita, we're not going to spend 3 months thinking about this. This is what you get. Go with the best you have. Use new methods of getting different information, distill your information, and then make that decision. And as I always say, sometimes it's not even the decision you make, it's how you manage it. So it's all about getting to the other side of your decision so that you can begin to progress and manage that decision effectively.
Thank you for that. And going back to what you were saying about checking in with yourself and the feeling of being a victim, I think over the last year, a lot of us in public health have been feeling that.
Mhm.
Um, and it almost feels like we need you to do this transformational training or maybe webinar of taking us out of that victimhood into that transformational thinking. And so let's put a pin on that. But I think that would be so helpful for the field right now is to get us out of feeling like we've been, attacked or, some things have been taken away from us because of what has happened at, the federal level when it comes to public health. I think one good technique you can share with people right now, though, is to think about the can if idea and shifting the narrative into, not the I can't do it or I can't right now, but I can if. So, share with us how you have been applying that can if thinking for your personal life as well as, any tips professionally.
One of the things, and again, I keep doing these precursors before we get to KNF, but I love the KNF framework fundamentally, because it's designed to keep you focused on solutions, and it's designed to give and put energy into your thinking and spur the creativity. So can if it does nothing else for you, it helps to open you up, right? Especially when you're operating from if you're operating from extreme setback or fear or insecurity or those things, those mindsets can really impact how you're thinking about the situation, the opportunities that you see or don't see. But a precursor to that, and we'll get to it probably in a little bit, but I think a critical precursor to doing can if is the book talks about breaking path dependence, right? And that little nugget of just taking some time before you get to the figuring it out, taking some time and interrogating. Just interrogate all that you think you know and where you get your information
Mm.
can begin to make those pinpricks of light a little larger, can help to begin to break down certain barriers that impact your thinking, right? And in doing that part of the process of the book, it opens you even more to embracing the can-if component of that. But having said that, can-if itself is really so I'll give it a concrete example of how I'm using KNF right now. I started the year 2020. I started last year, 2025. I had my little shingle out for a while. I've gotten a rhythm. Things were kind of grooving. And I'm like, you know what? It's time to grow. And I was looking forward to setting things up to grow in a way that I thought I was ready for that next level. And then the new administration happened. Things began to happen, and and then I was almost overnight put in a position of sustaining, right? So you go from
Mhm.
trying to grow to like we're just trying to keep it going right now. And so what I realized was that even though it was pragmatic for me to go to a position of sustaining and getting into that mindset, it wasn't it wasn't sufficient. It was appropriate for the time that it was there, but it wasn't sufficient, right? And so how was I going to, and this is the critical part that I want to emphasize for folks. It is normal and natural to feel uh that I gotta survive. That survivor mode is in all of us.
Mhm.
But also keep in mind that given all the things that happen, and sometimes things that happen externally to you, it's also a tactic by larger forces to keep you narrow in your thinking. When you're narrow in your thinking, you can be narrow in your action, narrow in the impact you think you can have for yourself, for your family, for others. And so I said, I can't stay in that mode. That is not going to be what is sufficient for me, for my family, for the impact I think that I want to have in community and in the larger spheres of influence. And so I started to use can if to say, well, how can I sustain but grow? Right? Which sounds almost like no one's going to say, oh, that's the moment you should lean in doing this risky thing or that risky thing or negotiating. And because that's when you start to compromise on
Yeah.
certain things because, I just got to make it. And it's like, no, if you do that, then you've locked yourself into something that may hurt you over time. So I use can if those springboards. I can if I substitute X for Y. I can if I consider this a resource or if I subtract this from the equation. So I use that to kind of put myself back into a growth and impact uh mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean the journey suddenly becomes easy. It doesn't mean that you still won't have other setbacks, but you put yourself on the right path and the right mindset to grow constructively and productively for that, and to also not allow external forces kind of keep you positioned where they think you're supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And so finding the tools that help enable clarity, perspective, and possibilities. And
Mm-hmm.
so those are the things that I constantly try to keep in the forefront of my mind. What's going to help me maintain clarity, perspective, and possibilities in my work and in my goals for my life and for my business.
And that feels better emotionally. I'm a very emotional person. And so that feels, you know, on the path where you don't feel stuck. Like you said, there's greater forces for their own agenda that's out there. And, for us to stay in alignment and focused, we have to feel better to get out the bed in the morning and to do this work and to keep going. And so, thank you for sharing that around not being willing to compromise and to have that mindset.
Well, and just a point about compromise, it's not even so much compromise, it's just like that's why I say clarity, right?
Mhm.
Because you once you have clarity, then you can make those smaller decisions that say, okay, I'm let this go. We can keep that. We can take this now because we know the larger idea is that, right? And so
Mhm.
clarity and perspective help you make tougher decisions,
Mhm.
and make the right types of compromises, right? Because right now, so for if you have all these job seekers and people like you can take what I'm going to give you, and it's like, well, I don't know about all that. But sometimes, do I want to make this short term choice? Because maybe I'm getting access to an ecosystem that I didn't have access to before.
Mhm.
I have access to networking that I didn't have.
Mhm.
I have these things that you making those trade-offs, but you can't do that if you're going from a position of just simply fear and survival when you can go from clarity and perspective. So
Yeah.
that just shifted mindset can do a lot for you.
Yeah. I feel like you're helping me think about what is like the emotional environmental context when I ask the question, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And so, my role is to kind of shine the light on these positive stories, like something really bad happened. And you are putting into perspective something bad happened, and then what should your mindset be? Like how you're helping people get out of, going down the dark path, we'll call it, to a more positive path. And then finding that win-win when you do have opportunities and having the win for you being like, this might be temporary, but it's helping me get to my long-term goal. Um, so love it. Thank you.
Stopgaps, stopgap strategies are valid. Short-term strategies are valid. As long as you have the clarity and the perspective that this is where I'm trying to go, because then it helps you know when that off ramp is necessary,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so many of us, I think, especially with everything that happened, we got uncomfortable, as they say, and then it's like, whoa. Now no one's comfortable. You have to find new ways and new pathways for that. So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk more about the path dependence because I know that was a big concept in the book. And so path dependence, as they defined it, is the tendency to keep doing things the way they've always been done.
Mhm.
As a public health professional, we often have a very rigid idea of what our career path will be. Like when we get into public health, we know, based on academics and what others are doing, what that path looks like. Have you had to break your own path dependence to see new opportunities? And then what does that look like for you right now?
So, absolutely. Because, as I said earlier, you have that moment where it's like, oh my goodness, this thing has happened. I got to start over. I'm of a certain age. I got people to take care of. I'm rebuilding, I'm pivoting. And you're just kind of like, ah, come on. I thought I'd earned this right to just be in a good space. And now we're not in good space. And how do we so it's overwhelming. And just the key thing is like when you're having these emotions, the most powerful thing you can do to yourself is to acknowledge that they are there and not judge them,
Mhm.
right? Acknowledge that that is your starting emotion, and then it enables you to move forward from it, right? On from it. So acknowledge that it felt overwhelming, it felt unfair, you know, like you do all the right things and then you're still kind of like pushed back. So I was frustrated, but I was also frustrated. And this is the larger thing about this idea of now, especially in the public health field right now, because it was something that was done to a collective. It wasn't, I'm a contractor, I lost a contract. That's just the life of being a contractor, right? We get contracts, we lose contracts, it was an ecosystem of colleagues and perspectives and things that were collectively built that were wiped away, you know. Um, and so I think that that act in itself, or those, subsequent series of acts in itself, broke the path for everybody.
Right, right. Everybody's
So
path
even
was
if
broken.
exactly, so even if you wasn't into pet, like I don't believe in path things at all. It's like, well, it got broke for you. It's all broken up. So we don't have a choice now but to rethink
Hmm.
and to kind of take it back. So how can you leverage the book in that way? What the book does is that it already gives you some springboard questions that will help you say, okay, let me interrogate. Let me look back and interrogate the path that I was on and say, what's still relevant? What's still necessary? What still can be leveraged? What do I need to let go of? Right? Because the next question is, what's going to be the new path? Right? Because there's going to be an after. There's always an after. So are we trying to build the path we built before? Are we trying to utilize this all of that's happened to public health and all of that's happened to us individually, collectively? How do we then forge a new, stronger path together for the impact, for the value, for community, right? And doing that. And so for me, um, I acknowledged that the path was broken for me, whether if I want to look at it, my dependence on it or not. It wasn't the bridge got wiped away.
Hmm. Hmm.
So then I had to settle into the reset. And one of the things I had to do is kind of think about it is not just even a singular career path. I decided to go all the way reset, hard reset. It's like put who I wanted to be
Mm.
and the roles that were critical and important to me
Hmm.
and put that at the center of the canvas
Hmm.
and and then look at the path dependence in those small perspectives to make sure I had a full picture, right? Because it's one thing to look at path dependence in terms of career, but there's also path dependence in terms of your personal
Hmm.
life expectations, relationships, things that you rely on that you just have to think differently about. So I acknowledge it as not just a setback, but an ecosystem level, systemic level event that required a complete way of rethinking what the paths are. And then that opened me up to not looking at just the path dependence associated with the career of public health, but in a realm of other aspects of my life that were important to me. And so in rethinking it and resetting, and using those springboards that the book gives you to kind of help you think through what certain things mean to you, what things can be interrogated, helped kind of me be open to new ways and new ways of doing things and new possibilities. And it also goes back to the first thing I talked about in terms of like, I went from growth to sustain. And it's like, okay, but now that I've broken these path dependencies, I'm thinking of growth in all kinds of different ways now.
Beautiful.
And that, and again, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy or simple or even, you can still try and fail, but it gives you like a different energy
Yeah.
about how you engage and who you support. This is the other part about one of the things about this, it comes from other places, but we'll stay with the book in terms of like it extends a level of generosity to peers that I think that when you don't think in terms of either abundance or mindset or clarity, or your path, that when we feel restricted, it's like you do this. When really, when we're in times of these types of, things that have happened, we need to be doing this. We need to be opening ourselves and supporting each other. And that's sometimes realistically, pragmatically hard to do when you're under your own personal stress and strain. And so you need those reminders, those mindset shifts to help you remember to lift as you rise or to, and for me, which was extremely difficult and part of my path dependence, is ask for help, which I'm still working on. I'm not good at it.
Same
So
too.
I'm still working on saying, you can ask for help. It's okay. Because
Yeah.
I'm the one that helps people, right? I'm the
Yeah.
helper. I'm
Yeah.
not the so it's like and it's something I continue to struggle with and I have to put as a check-in for myself because you're not going to get to these new areas of ambition that see based on the journey I've been on without asking for help. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered the question,
You
but
did. You did. And you made me think about when you talk about ecosystem and like, thinking about there's the field and systems and organizations, but like our ecosystem is our identity. So it sounds like you took a deep dive into who you are, which
Mhm.
is I would say at the core, very transformative, like really inquiring about yourself and your identity. And so I think that's beautiful. Like when you were talking, I'm like, that's the beauty in this. That's why they called it Beautiful Constraint, because I think what you said was beautiful.
And
So-
a small caveat to that though,
okay.
because I think people are going to read this book and they'll be like, this sounds very corporate. As a small disclaimer,
Uh-huh.
the book is corporate, right? So if you read the book and you're like, why are they giving examples of this Fortune 500, that Fortune 500? I always tell this to all of my anyone I've trained with or I've done this with, take the best and leave the rest. The core concepts in the book are what's beneficial and can be transformative and can be embraced. And you don't have to use the examples that they're using. So I just wanted to add
Gotcha.
that because based on our conversation, you have someone buy the book and like I'm expecting a Brene Brown. It's like no, it's not Brene. It's
It's
not
not, but you are definitely putting
Brene.
that personal spin to it as far as showing how it can be used at a personal level. So I think the conversation with you is very special. So I want to make sure that people know how to access your expertise. You're
Exactly.
currently consulting and helping teams navigate this complex landscape. And I know you're using the book as tools and tips within your modules and your trainings. And you clearly live and breathe these teachings. Like I can just tell, like it's in you, it's in your DNA. When you work with clients, whether they're individuals or health departments, what is the biggest transformation you want to see them through or you can see them through?
So for me, I think one of the most critical things you can do is to really think about readiness. So oftentimes, especially when working in teams, you may have one person that has the vision, but you got to get a whole slew of other people with you.
Mhm.
So to get into the work and to get into the nit, blah, 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 blah. To get into the work, you really have to assess readiness and willingness to take the path, to take the journey, right? For that. And I think for organizations that I work with, the amazing transformations I see are as those aha moments, those communication breakthroughs, and those underlying assumptions. organizations that have been working with each other for many years, and they say, you know what, we never had that conversation. That's the beauty of facilitation. That's the beauty of looking at underlying assumptions. That's the beauty of always engaging your clients with reflection. Let them give them time to think. So many times you're so busy doing, you don't have that space to think and
True,
reflect, and
true.
to allow that reflection to drive kind of the thinking. And then it helps you interrogate, it helps you to stay constructive, it helps you to stay forward thinking, progressing. So I would say, to sum it up, because I was over long, to sum it up, I would say communication. I would say getting to a state of readiness, whatever the after is, getting to a
Mm-hmm.
stage of readiness,
Mm-hmm.
communication, and again, just making sure that you're walking away with the best mindset to get the job done. Because understanding the path, knowing the way you have to go now, doesn't mean that the journey will be easy. You're still going to need all of the resilience and patience and communication and reiteration, and that you're going to need to get there. But it's that clarity of understanding that that's what it's going to take, and then pricing it and doing it.
And I know for sure you help people get to that point. So,
Yes, I mean, it's the beautiful thing about facilitation is that you really are enabling people to do the work themselves that they didn't know they could do,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's
Love
like,
that.
oh, it's,
Yeah. You just
uh,
pull it
it's
out of
it's it's
them.
good
You
work.
just pull it out of them. Yep.
Yes, you enable, and you can't do that without reflection and without clarity and without that time and thinking process. So.
Bonita, thank you for talking with me today. I could talk about the book and your expertise and knowledge about it all day. But we'll go ahead and stop now and maybe pick up later for some more transformative conversations using the tools. So thank you for talking with me. And I'll be sure to share with, the vlog audience how to get in touch with you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And Tiffany, it's always you inspire, and I hope we never tire of being inspired by others, and embracing that in our work with our peers and colleagues, because there's no skin off your teeth to be inspired by someone and just acknowledge it. So
Well, I love that you're in my community. So.